Welcome to the Replenishing Life Project. 30 days to recover from burnout and reclaim your vitality. With your hosts, Morgan B. and Lucy Ann Chard.
Welcome to the Replenishing Life Project. I'm Morgan B. and I'm here with my co-host, Lucy Ann Chard.
Hey everyone, hi.
We are very excited today to introduce our special guest. We have with us here Amanda Heisman. Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
Amanda is a nutritional channel, energy embodiment coach, and intuitive eating teacher. She guides women to create joyful and easy relationships with food, body, and self. She does this through a number of different unique modalities and methods, including intuitive eating, embodiment, organ channeling, and deep golden shadow and inner child work. Wow, that's quite amazing. Amanda, tell us a bit more about yourself and the work that you're creating in the world.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here with you ladies. You kind of gave a great intro there. Thank you. So I love helping women create a joyful and easy relationship with food and body and, by consequence, self again. I kind of like to say, make eating easy again. We've kind of lived in this society where things have become so hard and a struggle just to nourish ourselves. So when I think about the energy of dietary theories, diet mentality, and just society in general, how we've been raised with ideas of good and bad around eating, it feels really restrictive to me. It feels like really in a box. It feels really like this. And I like to help us move back into an energy of nourishment, which to me, intuitive eating, nourishment, feels really open and free and pleasurable and divine and sacred. It just feels like our sacred birthright to be able to nourish ourselves, 2-3 times a day and do it with ease, right? It doesn't have to be this hard, this struggle. And so, that's what I've found after coaching women for several years now is, it's way more than what to eat or, have some carrots and greens is, that there's always something underneath the relationship with food. So that's a big part of what I explore is, helping us just do these things with ease and really recognizing the joy that's inherent in it, And so I, like you said, I do that in a lot of ways. We do that with teaching intuitive eating. I do it through shamanic nourishment journeys and coaching around rewiring the subconscious beliefs of food and body. I do it with incorporating dance and song into, kind of rewiring our neural pathways through movement and intuitive movement. And I also do it through a rewilding as well, like using nature to getting out in our most basic wild state of, being in the natural world and cultivating that relationship as well. And kind of opting out of a lot of what I call nonsense norms or modern day hazards that we all kind of accept as normal, and creating new ones. So.
Wow. I mean, Amanda, just hearing you speak, I feel so energized just hearing you speak. And I'm so excited about the work that you're doing because it just encompasses the whole mind, body, spirit, philosophy that we're bringing into the community here. So I'm really excited that you're here. I would really like to hear from your perspective. I'd like to ask you about your experience of healing burnout. And I would love for you to share with us your story and some of the hurdles that you faced in overcoming burnout.
Sure. Yes. So burnout has, as I know you guys deal with it kind of front and center, you're taking it head on. And burnout has become kind of this epidemic in our society, I believe, from strains so far from a lot of natural ways, right? Again, this idea, this obsession with food and body, it is actually kind of a new thing in human history, right? There's a lot of ancient wisdom to be found. We didn't used to obsess over things like this. So my story around burnout and just in general started like a lot of people's, right? Just kind of being raised in the West, raised in Midwest Ohio, in the U.S. I grew up in Ohio. I went off to college. I got a great job in corporate. I studied marketing and French and international business, and then I started doing sales right after school. And I spent about a decade in corporate sales, most recently in IT sales. And most of that went really well for me. It was a good fit for me for a while. And then at the end, it was just kind of that culmination of the perfect storm, if you will, God, the universe, just creating the perfect storm for my transformation, change, wake up call. At the end, I got in a pretty significant car accident at the end of 2011. So over 8 years ago now, that previous to that, I had been really work hard, play hard, go, high achieving, captain of this in school, top salesperson of that, carrying $1 million quotas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Really, marathons on the weekend, triathlons and Zumba classes and soccer games and whatever. Like, to talk about it now burns me out now. I don't know how but that was my life, and I enjoyed it. And I was planning an international vacation, and I got in this car accident, and it just kind of like brought my life in that way to a halt. And I had to kind of relearn life again. Like, how am I going to exist in this body that can't do the things that I love to do, but that I found a lot of identity in. I could no longer compete in different athletics, and I just doing regular things like sitting in front of the computer or sitting behind the wheel of the car just hurt. I had a lot of chronic pain that year following the accident, and I went through the Western medical kind of protocols for the entire year, which some helped, some didn't, but what the end of it culminated with a recommendation to get disc fusion surgery there at my C4 and C5. And I didn't know what else, but I just knew not that. I had a full body no, I had an intuitive no, I'm not gonna do that. Yeah. So then that started this whole big exploration of, okay, if not that, what are we going to do here? Because we got to do something. And so that kind of led me on a big journey of health and healing in a lot of different modalities. Now, that year, again, that was kind of culminating after the car accident, that I was in a lot of bodily pain. I really started, like, my body really started to kind of tighten up and absorb a lot of the stresses that I had normally been outletting in different ways. So I just became completely disenchanted with my work. A lot of things changed at my company as well that were just kind of provided, again, the perfect storm. But I was not only working really full days, but and expected to do so. I was carrying really high quotas. I was trying to get so many things done. I was the outside sales associate, so I was quarterbacking a whole team of people, and I remember just being always on, just having that buzz of being always on. And you're in IT sales, if something's not working with a company's internet or their phone, that's a big deal, right? And I remember at the end, over the course of that year, when I couldn't, be as active as I'd once been, I gained about 25 pounds. And I got myself addicted to sugar. I kind of started to comfort eat and eat pizza and Snickers bars and these different like kind of coping mechanisms I had that I could, when I couldn't do what I was accustomed to doing. And I remember one turning point, which was waking up in the morning and realizing I knew I kind of had a grinding problem with my teeth. But one morning I woke up and my gums were bleeding. They were just bleeding from grinding my teeth so hard. And this happened a few more times before I decided to do something about it. So I was at a high level stress level, high cortisol level, definitely in every way, shape, and form burned out, but not even realizing it, because these were things that just society, and especially in the industry of go, you just kind of considered normal, right? Like all these low level symptoms that you just kind of live with. So once the stuff hit the fan, so to speak, like left the job and just that was kind of the start of my unsubscribing from normal life, and my wake up call in general. After that, I started to just explore other holistic modalities, which eventually led me to nutrition. Once I thought, if I can't go run 10 miles, maybe I should be taking a closer look at what I'm putting in my body. But it really, and it just kind of snowballed from there. But when I left, I didn't know what I was going to do next. I had no idea. I didn't know that I was going to go on this healing journey. I didn't know that I was going to go back to nutrition school and then help others. I just knew I needed to rest. I turned in my corporate phone and I turned in my corporate computer, and all I had then was an iPad at home. And I remember thinking, I got to go around the corner to the Verizon store and get a new phone. And I got back to my apartment and I just like sat for a minute and I was like, whoa, what's that? That silence? Forgot what that feels like, and a day turned into a week, turned into a month, turned into the entire year of not having a cell phone. It was kind of like the 90s, if I was home, you could reach me on the iMessage there, and if I wasn't, you couldn't reach me. Like, you better keep your plans because I'll be there at 9, like I said I would. So that's kind of one social experiment that I did in rest and recovering from burnout. And there were many others, but it was definitely one of those times of just one foot in front of the other, like taking the next illuminated step. And I'm talking, I wanted to take a nap, so I took a nap. I wanted to go to the beach, so I went to the beach. I wanted to go to Qigong class, so I did. I wanted to FaceTime with my dad, so I did. I wanted to start reading that book that I always wanted to read, so I did. And naturally then the next steps kind of started to appear, and that's when I went back to nutrition school and started this path that I'm on now. So
oh my gosh, that's amazing. that's quite an incredible journey. And I can relate, and I know a lot of our listeners can relate, and Lucy Ann as well, to that, that go, that, needing to do all these things and pushing to get things done. And like, it's when we take that moment to finally kind of just stop and like, unplug as well and be in that silence and like with ourselves. It's almost like two aspects of ourselves, or like these two separate beings that need to be merged into one. I'm just seeing that's what I'm seeing. So if you were to look back at that journey that you went through, were there moments where you had the intuition that, it's, oh, maybe I need to start looking somewhere else, or maybe, something, something's just off here, or, versus, like you felt it with your body and you had the experience, the accident and such. But was there anything prior to that where you were kind of,
oh yeah,
like little signs here and there?
Yeah, definitely. There are plenty of moments, signs that I just maybe ignored, straight up ignored, or noted, and then just kept, full steaming ahead anyway. A big one was that, that accident was in, I remember it because it was 5 days before my 30th birthday, and a couple weeks before I was supposed to leave for Greece. So it was the summer prior to that, I got mono. I was like, who gets mono as an adult? Like, I never got it back in high school or elementary school when everybody else got it, but I got mono, and I was supposed to be resting, and there I was in bed with my laptop. Like, like,
oh yeah,
I can work, I can do it, I can still talk to my clients. I got the phone, I got the laptop. Kind of neurotic, but it didn't even strike me as, like, it just was like, of course I'm going to do this. Why would I stop working? Yeah. And just a growing, like, I was no longer content with what I was doing. I had been pretty, I hadn't thought that this would be like my lifelong job or anything. There were definitely, things I had, but I was pretty happy with it for, 9 out of the 10 years that I did it. And that last year I was just pretty miserable. I was very miserable, but I didn't know what else, like all the things. I didn't know what else to do. What about money? What about this? What about that? I've got rent. And there's this one big deal that I'm working on. And if I close that before I quit, then I'll get the commission. And, like all the logical mind kind of doing all the calculations. But yeah, there were a lot of signs that I ignored, and just kind of plowed ahead in the way that I had always been taught, to kind of just this idea of work hard, right? This idea of just keep going, just play injured, just keep going. Rest wasn't something I valued because I had never really seen it valued before,
It's so interesting that you say that. I can really relate to that as a kind of cultural narrative that I grew up with as well. And so there's a similarity. What you're saying resonates with me and my own experience as well. I'd love to ask you to tell us more about rewilding and intuitive eating. So this beautiful work that you're creating in the world. You talk about how there were moments where you were ignoring the signs of burnout, and then through that experience you've created these incredible offerings with the world. So tell us more about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in love with these adventures, or these advenchachas, as I like to say. I'll tell you how I'll go through how I got there, and then tell you a little bit more about what they are. But on the tails of what we were just saying, this idea of like, work hard, keep plowing through. How do you get from there to rewilding and spending a week in the bush? It's really different, right? So I started reading, Martha Beck was one of my favorite authors, really even prior to all this. I had read back in, I think it was like 2007 or 8, she wrote Finding Your Own North Star was one of her first, bestsellers. And I just adored her. And I remember her saying, cave early is one of her sayings, right? Like this idea that we should keep going and going until burnout. She says, if you're tired, take a nap, like cave early. And then we don't get so far, the pendulum doesn't swing so far in one way. We kind of keep it a little more level. And I think she and many others in our society, especially over the last 6, 8, 10 years, have really helped redefine this idea that we have to keep, that we have to do things that way, right? That we have to work our fingers to the bone, or that we can't have work-life balance, or that we need to keep all our keep all our emotions inside even. I know have really redefined like vulnerability as a superpower rather than being seen as weak and things like that, and being able to talk about these things. So of course, like light bulb, right? Of course that's going to be healthy to be able to talk about, oh, I'm actually really exhausted and I'm not going to do that right now, rather than power through, and be able to say that out loud to someone. So I started with just those simple things like, well, actually, friends, I'm not going to go out with you. I'm going to sleep. Actually, I'm not going to run today. I'm going to go to yoga class instead. So it took these little things. When I went back to nutrition school then, which happened through a series of synchronistic events and kind of following those breadcrumb trails of the universe, I went and pursued a internship at a local organic garden farm that because I wanted to learn more about where my food was coming from. And it was a beautiful experience. And the one I did is the Fruitful Field in Pompano Beach. Hi, you guys. They have a lovely adult internship program as well as a youth internship program. And it's an amazing place. They have, they actually donate the equivalent amount of produce that is sold. They donate the equivalent amount to charities, soup kitchens, families in food need in the area. And I just learned a ton about gardening and growing food there, as well as, and I even have a blog post to this end, like the top 9 things I learned from being a garden farm intern. But as well as just communing with nature, just like being out, working the soil, just like being out, talking to the plants, like feeling like I had some sort of connection, with the carrots and with the radishes and the tomatoes and the things that were growing, and the moringa tree and, the bayrum leaf tree and like all these things. I was in South Florida, so it's like kind of that subtropic climate, right? The star avocados and the star fruit and the mangoes, and just like, delicious, right? But just starting to really like connect to nature again, and spending time at the ocean and with the water, and just really kind of, nature is kind of that its own reflection of authenticity and truth back to you, right? Like you can't, like the animals can't lie to each other. They can't say they're all right if they're not, you know what I mean? Like they're injured, they rely on the pack and they heal, or whatever the case may be. If they're hungry, they got to go find something to eat. So just that started a ripple effect then of, a lot of other things were happening in my practice. My intuition was opening up as well, and just like clairs starting to pop, and different things were happening. And then a couple of years ago, I met my now business partner, Tyrone Morales, and explored the wide, wonderful world of Alberta, Canada, which is beautiful, just this gorgeous place. Explored the foothills and the Canadian Rockies, Banff, Jasper, like that whole area, and kind of went, why are we all going to Costa Rica to do retreats? Why isn't anyone doing retreats here? No, I love Costa Rica, but you know what I mean, right? So it's just this gorgeous place, and we started offering Return to Wildhood nourishing nature immersions, in which we take people out, in nature, in the mountains there, and just offer a really unique experience with the skill set I bring and the skill set he brings. We kind of have a lot of complementary practices, and we do a lot of different things with people, but the general idea being getting away again from kind of like the modern day hazards and just into the wild, like us in our most natural state, cultivating a relationship with the natural world and the land, and that being not just a pretty backdrop for our transformation, but something we really commune with and start to hear its rhythms and see how they're reflected in our own body and in our own lives. And then really give practices. It's nice to have these big transformations, and retreats and things like that, but then really give practices and an integration path for when we're back in our culture at home and everything else. I'm a big fan of the author Martin Shaw, and he talks about the road of the village and the road of the forest. And when we go into the forest, it's, we have our adventure, we have our time, but we also have to bring that wisdom back to the village, right? So we like to provide an integration path to come back. So it's about both.
Nice. Oh,
yeah,
that's amazing. I just love that. And thinking about, I've been to Banff and Jasper, and it's magnificent. And the mountains out there, just makes you feel like you're connected to earth and to life out there, like in nature. And so yeah, it's amazing.
it's a really special place.
Yeah, it is. I wanted to ask you more about the intuitive eating side, because if and when someone is experiencing burnout, many times it's hard to get in touch with your intuition in order to nourish yourself, or be like, have some guidance as to what would be the best thing to nourish yourself. When I was going through a burnout, I would just make the food that was the easiest to make, which wasn't always the most nutritious for me, even if it was considered vegan food. It's like vegan junk food out there. So, what would you say to someone who's experiencing burnout, and how they can connect with intuitive eating, or how they can nourish themselves? What are the first kind of few steps they can take to nourish themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially because you're right. You do need to kind of get your body to a certain point to be able to even hear your intuition and to be in touch with your intuition. I mean, you can always hear your intuition, but as far as intuitive eating goes, yeah. So what I would say to someone who's in that state is, again, I kind of hinted at it, the next illuminated step in front of you. Don't keep searching for the entire path. Like, don't keep searching for the five miles ahead. Look right in front of you. What's the next thing to nourish yourself? But when you're even, if you're in that frame of mind where it's just too tough to even like decipher that, I like to talk about, there's some big universal truths about the human body, right? That we kind of like lose track of in the busy. And that is, get adequate water. Just get adequate water in our bodies. Just hydrate, right? Just hydrate yourself, drink some herbal teas, make a nice tea, nourish yourself in that way. Water, like vegetables, fruit and vegetables are great, are so nourishing. Like, just have some of that. Movement, do a little bit of movement. Doesn't need to be this hardcore exercise, but do a little bit of movement, preferably outside, again, in nature, getting on the earth. Some people like breath work, right? You can do that outside. Water, vegetables, sleep, right? Sleep is a big one. So getting adequate rest, and love, appreciation and gratitude. Like, these things, a lot, like 80% of the issues I see can be solved with getting adequate amounts of these things in our lives. And we're just not doing it, like, we're not thinking to do it. We're not prioritizing it, or whatever the case may be. So what that looks like in daily life. And I've been through, so I guess you might call it emotional burnout, right? Like, going through a big separation, divorce, change. I ended an engagement 3 years ago, and I was just like, couldn't see the forest from the trees at all. I was just like, so what I made sure to do at that time was regardless of what else I did, I drank water all day. I had my green smoothie, and I had a bowl of what I call superfood oatmeal. So I'd make oatmeal with whatever, chia seeds and a little ashwagandha and whatever powders I had, right? And this, like, just that practice was really helpful for me, because when you're going through heartbreak or burnout or whatever the case may be, there's days where you just want to like eat a dozen donuts and crash on the couch and just let yourself kind of binge. And there's days you don't want to eat at all, right? You're just like nothing. So on the days I wanted to eat a dozen donuts, I still, I got up and I had my green smoothie and I had my oatmeal. And if I still wanted a donut, maybe I had a donut or 2 donuts instead of 12. And on the days when I didn't want to eat anything, I still got up and had my water and my smoothie and my oatmeal. And if I ate nothing else all day, at least I ate that, you know what I mean? At least I nourished myself. At least I got some basic nutrients in my body. And you'd be surprised what having like a little bit of ritual and a little bit of routine, just even that much, nothing else. Like my morning run went out the window, my other things, but just that much was able to like get that thread back to, regular life. So that's kind of what I have to say to that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I hear like almost like a getting back to simplicity as well. Those 5 core things that you mentioned, and also that developing a little bit of a routine or a rhythm for you. So it's not having to think about, oh my gosh, what do I have to do, or and getting into all that mental, the mind chatter over, all sorts of things, or emotionally what's going on. So
right. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't overthink it. Just do these few things, and this too shall pass. Right.
Totally. I love how what you're saying is really, it's kind of centered around that non-negotiable practice of taking care of yourself, and really taking care of yourself across the whole spectrum. And I think that's one thing that certainly our community members can really value and take to heart. So I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about, so shifting gears a little, and talk a bit about some of the myths around the healing of burnout. So I imagine that there must be some myths that you've come across in your work of how people think that they should go about it. For example, we were chatting, and here in the UK, there's a saying of just keep calm and carry on, or keep a stiff upper lip, which means basically keep a bottle on things and don't share or don't express how you feel. So yeah, speak to that a little bit and share with us your experience.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think that's keep a stiff upper lip sort of thing. Yeah, my dad's whole side is very Germanic background, so very stoic, very like all the women on his side don't know what to do with me. But I get that. And I think kind of what we were talking about earlier with that Martha Beck quote of cave early, being able to show our emotion, like reframe that to be a strength, and being able to talk about these things. So bottling it all up, no. I'm like, that's a big no. Being able to talk about these things first and foremost with those we love is really important. There's also, these nourishing things are all underlying care, like self-care, nourishment for yourself, self-love, right? Like being able to accept the fact that you deserve these things. And I think there's kind of this idea that we can, we might not say it this way, but that we can hate our way to self-love, that we can, you know, like just torture ourselves into loving ourselves. That's not how it works, right? We put up these rules and these like boxes and these ideas. Well, if I just get to this, then it's okay to love myself. We don't say that, but that's the underlying current of why we do a lot of what we do, right? Looking for self-worth and value. And when we're healing from burnout or anything else for that matter, our first instinct is to do what we've always done. And so we don't know what we don't know. And so a lot of the first step I take with people is just the taking a step back and recognizing what your biases are, what your habits are. And then I like to say, create little mantras for people to realize this. So like, I am open to new ideas of nourishment. Like, we might not have thought about doing it a different way. So let's just try something on. In order to try something on, I have to take off what I'm wearing now, right? I have to get in the dressing room. I have to take off what I'm wearing, maybe hang it on the hook. I can always, by the door, you know, I can always pick it up on the way out. I can always put it back on if this new dress doesn't work for me, but I'm going to try on this new dress and I'm going to see what it's like. What is it like? You know, I always did marathons and soccer. What is Zumba and yoga class, or excuse me, not Zumba, yoga and Qigong class like? But that first step of being open, having a beginner's mind, is really helpful when we're kind of not, when we just think there's just one way, and we don't even necessarily realize that there are other ways. Another mantra I use is I replace judgment with curiosity. I replace judgment with curiosity. Anywhere I'm kind of like judging myself or thinking I should do that, this comes up with self-talk of shoulds and should nots. Well, I should have done that. Or even around eating, we use words like treat or cheat, right? So anywhere we're kind of judging things to be good, bad, right, wrong, cheat or treat, where can we just get curious, like a childlike wonder? I wonder why I have that belief that is a treat and that's a cheat, and where might I reframe that, and what actually might be nourishing for me? And, you know, just kind of start to ask ourselves these questions, and that leads kind of down the path even further. I'm not quite sure if those were myths, but I kind of went on a tangent there. Yeah.
No, that's great. And thank you. Those actually were some good tips for people to start exploring that, and to, and to try on some different ways of doing things to see if that works for them and helps them on their healing journey. So you actually have a gift for our listeners, and would you like to share?
Sure, yeah. I do. I have anyone who would like to get a free nourishment body reading with me. I do free first 20-minute readings where I channel the needs of your nourishment body. So that's like the next priority for your nourishment. It's not like the 3-month plan. It's like the next 1 or 2 or 3 things that your higher self reveals would nourish you right now. It might be a color to eat. It might be an organ to support.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I have a free nourishment body reading for anyone who would like one. You can sign up for that on my website, and also get a free mini module about intuitive eating. And then for your listeners, I have a coupon code for $100 off a full-on session with me, which is actually a shamanic journey where we go into the rewiring of the subconscious patterns, kind of dig in there around the energetic hook underneath the relationship with food. So I think you guys will have it all in the links, but I think it's Replenished is the coupon code for $100 off of a full session with me.
Wow, that's so generous. Amazing.
That's incredible. Thank you. That's so exciting.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I also we just reopened the waiting list for next summer's rewilding adventures, return to wildhood adventures. So if anyone is interested in that, the January is the time to let us know. If something like that kind of stirs your fancy of getting out in nature, of experiencing the Alberta mountains and foothills and all that the plants and animals and everything has to offer. You know, we do breath work, we do foraging and plant identification, we do shamanic journeys there, we talk with the animals, the plants, we do quite a bit. So polar plunging, the whole 9 yards. So if anybody is interested in that, definitely just ping me. Let me know.
Amazing. And we'll have all your details and the link below in the description of the video. So you'll be able to connect with Amanda and get your free gifts. Yeah.
That's so incredibly generous, Amanda. Thank you. And it sounds completely magical and very, very exciting. So we were wondering if you could send a loving and supportive message to your younger self from, say, about 20 odd years ago. What would you say to her?
20 years ago. 20 years ago, I was getting ready. I was entering my senior year of high school and getting ready to go off to college. So I would, it was a big transition time for me. And I think that I would just tell 18-year-old Amanda, you are loved, you are cherished. And that is something to remember as you go out in the world, and keep your adventurous spirit. Actually have a blessing is coming, like what's coming up for me is a blessing that I usually share in my programs that I'd love to share now, is something that I would give to her.
Oh, please, that would be amazing. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if you guys and your listeners would like to receive this as well, you can do whatever you normally would. If you want to close your eyes or put a hand on your heart or your lower dantian, your womb space for women. And just go ahead and receive this blessing song. In this body, no fear. In this body, deep peace. In this body, great happiness. In this body, safety. In this body, no fear. In this body, deep peace. In this body, great happiness. In this body, safety. In this body, no fear. In this body, deep peace. In this body, great happiness. In this body, safety. May you and 18-year-old Amanda experience no fear, great happiness, safety, and joy, and great love in your body today and every day.
Oh, thank you. That was so beautiful.
Wow, that was extremely beautiful. Thank you so much. What a beautiful blessing. Thank you, Amanda.
You're welcome. Thank you for receiving it. Thank you for that question. I love that question as well. I think it's a great inquiry of going back to give our previous versions of ourselves some love. I think we need it as in our healing journeys.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Amanda, for joining us today. And thank you for everyone, all our community and our listeners for connecting. And I hope that you received that. And yeah, so beautiful. Thank you. Anyways, thank you, Amanda. Thank you for being part of the series. And we really appreciate connecting with you.
Thank you. I'm still integrating that healing. So just wanted to thank you for your grace and for your generosity and your wisdom. And thank you for being here with us. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you for having me, and thank you for everything you're doing to support everyone around the globe. Appreciate you.
Thank you.